Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is a past episode taken from my podcast. I'm slowly moving my entire episode library to YouTube. Now, just as a heads up, there's no editing on these. You may hear me out of breath, traffic going by, and occasionally me tripping. It's literally just me talking in my phone while I'm walking around my neighborhood at night like a crazy person. Wonder what the neighbors think of that. Anyway, the episode info can be found in the description. With all that said, enjoy the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe.
What's up, everybody? This is Tanner from TanmanBaseballFan.com. I started my walk early tonight, even though it's Game 2 of the World Series, but the Astros were getting the stuffing pounded out of them. So said, you know what? Watching that game makes me sad. Podcasting and walking make me happy. So here's what I'm doing right now. I wanted to talk about the anatomy of a super collector. This question comes a lot to me. Tanner, what is a super collector? Am I a super collector? And so I thought this would be a super fun recording to make because this question pops up on the forums, on social media. People want to know two things. Number one, if they are a super collector. Number two, if not, what does it take for them to be a super collector? So I'm going to go ahead and preface this entire talk with saying that I would certainly not necessarily recommend striving to be a super collector, because when it comes to super collecting, it is actually a really time and money intensive thing for the most part. Okay, so especially in today's collecting landscape, because if you're super collecting something that's nowadays like I don't know, Jose Altuve or Mike Trout or Christian Yelich, any of these guys, or teams, Angels, Yankees, whatever. Again, there are like 1.5 billion ways to super collect. It just really kind of depends on what you want to do. But it can get super duper expensive. And because there's so many of these out here, of these cards out here that they create nowadays, you really gotta almost temper yourself and make sure that you don't overdo it, because it is really easy to overdo it, guys. Like I mentioned in another recording earlier, 2018 saw like over, I think it was, one new release of baseball cards a week for the entire year. I suspect 2019 is the same as 2017 was, and you can really get swept away because every player nowadays is going to have multiple cards that are numbered out of 25, 10, 5, 1-of-1s, printing plates, all this stuff. So I would certainly recommend, if you're interested in super collecting, make sure that you set parameters for yourself. If you're going to be super collecting Will Clark, consider super collecting only cards from his playing career, because that's going to be a whole lot easier on your wallet than diving into the craziness that's happened in our hobby over the past 5 or 10 years. Because the hobby really kind of calls for you to become to be independently wealthy, to be able to attempt to get everything, which is basically a physical impossibility thanks to the 1-of-1s and have 2s, have 3s. I mean, nobody can get everything. It's just impossible. So my number one recommendation would be, don't even try to get everything. Set parameters, and also very important, set a budget for yourself. For some reason, I don't know why, but this hobby has the ability to really suck you in and be very secretive about purchases, like from your wife or whatever it is, and that's never a good thing. You always want to be open with your wife about your collecting, or your husband if you're if you're a woman that's collecting. So I guess there's some women out there that collect, not many, but but I'd say 95+% of collectors are guys, but I could be wrong. But anyways, I would always be a very big advocate for being open and honest with your wife or your spouse, I guess I should say, with what you collect and how much everything costs. Because you certainly do not want to run into financial problems or relationship problems because of a hobby that should serve you rather as an escape. And so I have seen, it's my experience, that super collecting can tend to do that for people. And I've seen people miss out on family time, have stress for financial problems and everything as well. So collecting quote unquote regularly is probably more healthy. But as I mentioned, I promised you that I talk about the anatomy of a super collector. So regardless, with all my disclaimers and suggestions, I'll go ahead and jump into it. So I wrote about what the makeup of a super collector is in my book, Confessions of a Baseball Card Addict, if you want to check it out. And so I'm really kind of going by memory here. And, so I'm going to miss some points, which is okay, because guess what? For every person that asks what the definition of a super collector is, there are just as many opinions on what it is. So I can't tell you what the definitive answer is, but what I can do is I can tell you what I've seen. So for a regular collector, what they're going to do typically is they're going to see cards online that they like and pick it up and say, okay, this is really neat. If they're Mets fans or any player, or even certain players that go to a specific college, or only left-handed white dudes with beards or that are shortstops, I don't know. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But for super collecting, it's more of an obsession. Like a casual collector might check eBay a couple times. Super collector might check a couple times on eBay every half hour. They might have their phones set automatically to check eBay, or that eBay's open rather, so they can always check whenever they want to. They are constantly scouring the forum, social media, trying to do deals with people to get the cards that they're looking for in their collection. And a lot of times super collectors will go to sleep dreaming about the cards that they're looking for, and oftentimes have dreams of finding these cards. So I know this because this is me. This is what I used to experience completely. So it's fun. Super collecting is intoxicating, and it is also attractive to people. And I'll give you an example. So for those that are not collectors, when you see a super collector, and I'll give a shout out to my buddy Richard. He's a Wade Boggs super collector. He has the famous Boggs Tavern. Y'all check him out online. His stuff is nuts. He's got this basement that's completely finished out with Wade Boggs memorabilia and cards. He's got life-size cutouts. He's got shower shoes that are framed on the walls. He's got every little inch of ceiling and wall plastered with posters. It's very impressive. I could understand how somebody that's not a collector to look at that and say, ooh, stalker, that's a little much. I can understand that, but I also think that almost anybody who lays their eyes on it has to have some sort of appreciation for it. And guess what? When somebody has appreciation for something, and they are appreciative of having that sort of entertainment, they're attracted to it and they want to help build it, so and contribute to it. So as a super collector, that's what a lot of people will experience. For me personally, when I was a super collector of Conseco cards, I had all kinds of people offering me cards, and a lot of them would send me cards for free. And it was like just a fun time. Like I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the camaraderie with other collectors. I enjoyed that people would reach out to me first before anybody else. If I saw a card on eBay that I needed, well, and by the way, I'm using the term needed very loosely. What I really mean to say is I needed to complete a certain rainbow or to fit into my collection or whatever. Whenever I'd reach out to sellers, a lot of times I would tell them who I was, and they knew who I was already, and they would be willing to do a deal with me, which is great. It was something that I loved personally because I was able to write articles about my collection, self-syndicate those articles all over the internet, talk about social media, and Facebook was great because if anybody would post a Conseco card for sale, I'd have sometimes 5 or 10 people tagging me, and it was a great thing, and I was just so appreciative of all the people that did it. And it makes you feel good, makes you feel real good. So a super collector, what do they go after? It really depends on what they go after, but for me, what it looked like is I wanted every single type of every single specific card. So for example, if you go to my Conseco collection website at consecocollector.com, it is still up there, and it's searchable, sortable. It's a visual checklist. A lot of Conseco collectors and super collectors still use it as the checklist to see what they need and what they don't need, and all that, and what's available out there from like 2018 and before. But if you like do a search of, say, like 1997 Finest, you won't just see the 2 cards that Topps came out with, the A's and the Red Sox version. You'll see the embossed version of each, the refractor version of each, the embossed refractor version of each, the embossed refractor error of each that's actually not embossed. You'd see the original photos that Topps used to create the cards themselves, and the original photo slides that Topps used to create those cards themselves. So that's kind of what a super collector does. A regular collector would probably be fine with like maybe the refractor of one of them, and that's it. But super collectors are relentless in picking up one of everything at least, and there's some even. I'll give my friend Dustin a shout out here for his Andre Dawson collection. This guy has got, I think, if I remember correctly, 200,000 Andre Dawson cards, and he's actually going to send 800 of them to me for me to emboss with my logo on them, just so he has another variation of each, and his collection is incredible. He loves doubles, so he could have like an 800 count box of 1988 Donruss, and he'll be excited about it. Whereas for me personally, I just want one of each. So maybe Dustin's like a super duper collector. I don't know. But it's fun to be able to hear about these other super collectors and what they collect. A lot of these collections are going to be, another way to tell if somebody's a super collector or not is their collection that is like laser focused on one certain subject is heads and tails better than most everybody else's in that certain realm. So that's a good way to tell as well. Try to see if I can think of any other super collectors. I'll give you my friend Anthony, for instance, Gary Carter super collector. He kind of picked up where I left off. Like in social media, I would create these beautiful graphics because I'm a graphics guy. I've been a web developer for 20 years, and I enjoy graphics, as you probably know. I love creating custom cards and just really anything that has to do with graphics. I actually just put together a graphic set for Maz earlier today, who's a Topps artist, Top sketch artist. So I enjoy that stuff. But Anthony, what he does is he kind of took the baton and is fantastic at putting together these beautiful banners that go all over social media. So for example, 2019 Tops Update just dropped, and so he'll have a beautiful advertisement that says, hey, I'm looking for all of these certain parallels of Gary Carter, message me. And I don't remember his email address, but if you want to look him up, he's Anthony Cali on Facebook. So if you have any rare Carter cards, then check him out. But it's fun because people rally around him. And there's other Carter guys out there too, just like there's other Conseco guys out there. But it's really kind of about getting above the noise and getting your name recognized out there. Now, you don't have to do that to be a super collector, of course not. I mean, you could be somebody that's extremely well endowed into the super collector arena for whatever your niche is, and you don't have to be known. You know, that's how diverse and how deep our hobby is that there's so much stuff out there. You could be somebody that's anonymous and not ever be known about and still have like the biggest collection ever of whatever you're looking for. For me, because I love interacting with people on social media, writing articles, that was kind of my fast track, so to speak, to get there. And it was almost like a second job. I guess it would be almost like a second job for people, but for me, I just enjoyed it so much. Like, I love that stuff. I love interacting with everybody, so it wasn't work. You know, just kind of another outlet for me to converse with others and, you know, kind of put my name out. So anyways, with all that said, I guess that's kind of a good start to really figure out if you're a super collector or what a super collector is. If you're asking yourself if you're a super collector, you're probably, I tend to think that you're not, because I think that those who are pretty well into it. Like they know, you know, they know offhand because they've sunk in a significant amount of time, money, energy into doing this sort of thing. And so that's not to say that they never will be. I mean, if you're asking yourself a question, am I a super collector? You know, while you might not be right now, I'd imagine that you might well be on your path, be well on your path to being one. If that's what you aspire to be, it's not a difficult thing at all. It's fun. In many ways, it can be rewarding, provided that you put certain parameters as far as time and money goes, and you know, certain collecting niche that will help things so much more, in my opinion. You know, you don't want to necessarily be somebody, unless you're independently wealthy, to be a super collector for all Derek Jeter cards, because number one, they're like wildly expensive. But you know, think about maybe doing only licensed Jeter game used cards. And I'm not anybody to tell you how to collect. I mean, you know, it's just only thing I can do is give you some suggestions. But I do think that it'll be more fulfilling if you set certain parameters and you know, enjoy collecting that way instead. That's kind of been my experience. And yeah, so I think that's really kind of all I have for you tonight. I'm probably missing a lot of stuff as far as what a super collector is and super collector isn't. So if you have anything else to add, feel free to write to me on Twitter at TameManBBFan, or email tamemanbaseballfan@gmail.com. And YouTube, of course, I'm at youtube.com/TameManBaseballFan. And yeah, and by the way, of course, you can check my website out, guess what? tanmanbaseballfan.com. So anyways, like I said, love to hear from you. I'm very accessible. I try to answer everybody as much as I can. So if you have any questions you'd like me to answer on the airwaves here as well, I'd be happy to. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you all have a great night.